Ex-offenders, the underlying factors of recidivism. According to the United States Attorney's Office, 97% of those in jail today are released. Ex-offenders are often seen as subhuman. Obviously, they're not. Ex-offenders could be your relatives, your friends. Ex-offenders could be your neighbors. My neighbor is a retired police officer. His son, about 10 years ago, went to jail for drug-related offenses. His son has two beautiful little girls who are about 2 and 4, and while they have nothing to do with his offense, they're effective nonetheless. He can't find a job. While my husband is a manager at Lowe's, my neighbor's son can't even find a job at Lowe's. He can't even be a cashier. I think it's ridiculous that this man who had a bunch of drugs on him and potentially sold them can't count money and put it in a drawer and tell people have a good day. That has nothing to do with what he went to jail for. It was over 10 years ago. He did his time and he's off probation. He's redeemed. He hasn't been in trouble since. He's a good person and he's a good father. Living in prison is no piece of cake. There's luxuries. Men and women have television, they can work out, they have all kinds of things that are just, make prison so wonderful. And really, does it, what is it there that makes it so much more wonderful than being here? Like, can they step outside like I can? Can you hug your mother and your father like you and I can? Can you be intimate with your partner? No. Can you see your children? Like, I couldn't imagine going to prison. I would miss my kids so much. And I could not imagine not being able to even hold my husband's hand. The simple luxuries that prisoners are afforded are no substitute for the freedoms that they lack. They can't choose what food they eat. They can't go to the store when they feel like it. If they smoke or they drink, they can't do that when they feel like it. I mean, they have to turn to defending themselves from each other and defending their bodies. It's terrifying. There is no luxury about prison. They have mental health issues because of the things that go on in prison. They have health issues. Ex-offenders are 8 to 9 times more likely to have hepatitis C or HIV. They lack appropriate interview clothes. They don't have transportation, and they have child care assistance, assuming that their family hasn't left them, because they generally don't have family support. They don't have identification, and all these things accumulate to where they have. I mean, it's extremely difficult to attain employment. And employers can obtain criminal records, which can lead to disparate impact, discrimination. An ex-offender can be basically denied a job because of their criminal record, which has no impact or threat based on the current job they are applying for. According to Federal Probation Issue 69, persons who feel trapped in poor-paying jobs with little room for advancement are likely to feel that they have little to lose by engaging in criminal behavior. Now, I mean, that's saying that ex-offenders who do find a minimum wage job are more likely to go back to their criminal behavior to the past because they feel trapped. They're more likely to go back to what was making them live large in the first place. But it doesn't just stop there. In a 2010 New England Journal on Criminal and Civil Confinement, under federal law, public housing authorities are permitted to obtain an individual's criminal record when reviewing housing applications. Furthermore, you have to have credit or a hefty down payment for an apartment or to buy a house, and neither of which a person, an ex-offender, has upon leaving prison. I didn't even have it. I didn't go to prison. And you can apply for HUD as an ex-offender, but HUD generally takes at least 3 months to be approved for, sometimes 6 months, sometimes even more. And if you have 3 months, if you have to wait 3 months and you're homeless for 3 months before you can find a house, I would think that would further increase your chances of returning to your criminal activities, because who would choose to be homeless for 3 months rather than get money and somewhere to live through an illegal activity? Their morals at this point, especially after going to prison, are much different than what we have. It's much more difficult. Which leads us to recidivism. Now, according to the Department of Corrections website, which made a 2013 brochure available that was regarding the Missouri reentry process, 72% of offenders who did not have a full-time job before entering prison went back within 2 years. Only 27% who did have a full-time job before entering prison went back. So having a job really made a difference. If you had a full-time job before you entered prison, you really did not, you didn't do it again. If you did not have a job, the recidivism rates were a lot higher. Now, if you obtain the GED, 37% of offenders returned, which is still relatively high. But if you did not obtain a GED while in prison, 48% returned. Now, those with serious mental health conditions, 57% returned within 5 years. And of those who returned to prison, out of all of the offenders in Missouri who returned to prison, 59% of offenders were returned for drug-related offenses. So, interestingly enough, over time, according to a 2014 Sociology Compass article, the research on redemption demonstrates that those with a criminal record can eventually look like non-offenders in terms of the criminal risk. So, if you think about it, if we put our minds to it and we help out ex-offenders in terms of employment and housing and mental health especially, and education and all of that, ex-offenders can be redeemed. We can reduce recidivism. That's all there is to it. We can get rid of those invisible barriers.